So, even if you only have one plant in your house that you love, or if you grow a whole garden, it's going to be just something very uplifting to get you out of sorrow and sadness and back, to your own truth within yourself and a little bit more joy.
The thing about the plants is they're grounded, they're connected. They're connected to the earth, they're connected to their own spirit, and they do have a spirit. They're living beings. They've been here 1,000 times longer than we have. We're the new kids on the block. They're very evolved in this world, and they have just such a sweet spirit, all of them.
We got a really special treat for you today, where I interview both of my parents, John Finch and Jane Richmond, who are the founders and operators of the Self-Heal School of Herbal Studies and Healing, located here in San Diego, California, where they've been teaching classes on herbology, herbal medicine, nutrition, energy healing, meditation, and much more since the, I think, mid-1980s. My dad has been a teacher at various colleges like alternative health schools, massage colleges, Chinese medicine schools, and they teach out of their home here in San Diego, California. They've got a classroom, and today's topic is going to be on some of the top herbs to use for things like anxiety, depression, for liver health, lots of different herbs that you can use by themselves or in combination for things like quitting alcohol, for things like quitting drugs, for early recovery, and for things like anxiety, depression, and much more. This is actually part one of the video. We didn't want to make it one super long episode. So today is part one, and the next episode that comes out, 225, is going to be the same guests, my parents, in the same location, their backyard, an herb garden. And we're going to be continuing this discussion because they just had so many awesome herbs to talk about and so many ways that you can take these herbs to improve your life. So without further ado, let's watch the interview. Today's topic is herbal medicine for drug and alcohol addiction recovery. Whether you're still battling a substance use disorder, whether you're recently off or somewhere in early recovery, or even years off of substances, this episode is going to teach you how to use specific herbs to rebuild your brain, your body, your heart, your spirit, your liver, and much more. And so my mom is the real expert on these specific herbs that she has today, and my dad is also a master herbalist expert, and he's going to be chiming in as well. I'll probably chime in here and there also, but without further ado, let's start with the first herb on the list, or you can just go however you want to do it. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be able to share with you, and I want to thank my beautiful son for inviting us. He's done a wonderful job of healing himself over the years and helping heal lots and lots of people. And that's kind of what John and I have done too, in a different way. We have a herb school called Self-Heal School of Herbal Studies. And we've been teaching since 1985. And yeah, do you want to say something, John?
Yeah, well, herbs are very powerful at building the immune system, the nervous system, the heart, just all parts of our body. They're natural, they're safe, and they're effective.
That's right. I have a gal actually who's been on, found that actually some of our herbs helped her more than Xanax did, which I thought was really pretty great. And so let's start with herbs for the nervous system, because probably, all of us during COVID time, our nerves are a little bit shot. So I'd like to share with you some herbs that are really simple to take. They're really simple to find, to make tea with, to make tinctures with, and all of that. It's pretty simple. And you've heard of this herb. It's not Greek or anything. It's actually chamomile. And chamomile is one of those herbs that's safe enough for babies. So it's definitely safe for you. I think one of the problems with this world today is sleep, and chamomile helps you sleep like a baby. We use, a lot of people think maybe it doesn't help you sleep because they get a tea bag from the grocery store and put that in a cup of hot water. but actually it does help you, but you may need to use 3 tea bags. And you may need to let it sit for at least 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer. But definitely you should get a good night's sleep just from chamomile. A lot of people will get a good night's sleep from chamomile.
Quick dovetail in here, super fast.
Yeah.
When I first met Chris Scott, my co-host for this podcast, who you guys know, and you haven't met him yet, correct?
No.
Well, he's visiting again. I want to make sure that
Okay.
when he comes down in September, you guys get to visit with him. But he told me that after he quit drinking, Chris would do 4 to 6 tea bags of chamomile.
There you go.
And he'd steep it for like 10, 15 minutes. And he would drink that. And I was like, whoa. Because I had heard you talk about chamomile and Dad. And I never knew, like, I had tried it, but it didn't seem like powerful enough. So 4 to 6 tea bags. And it's so funny that you're talking about that too. Yeah.
So one caveat here is that it's very uncommon, but some people are actually allergic to chamomile. If you're allergic to western ragweed, then you may also be allergic to chamomile. You could possibly go into anaphylactic shock from that. Very uncommon, as I said, but it's something to know. And most people have had chamomile before, and know they don't react to it. The other thing is that chamomile is a nervine, and which means it is high in minerals that act as electrolytes in the body, and that's how they nourish and balance your nervous system. So it's going to be really important to make sure that the chamomile you're obtaining is organically grown, because commercially grown vegetables and herbs are grown in soils that are depleted of minerals, and so you're not going to get the effect you want if you get a poor quality chamomile.
A big deficiency too when people are quitting alcohol or benzos and certain other drugs, whether they're natural, semi-synthetic, or synthetic, is they'll have GABA deficiencies, gamma aminobutyric acid, or butyric acid. My dad probably knows how to pronounce it. GABA, so that's our brain's natural Valium. It is an inhibitive neurotransmitter that slows down brain signals in the brain, so it kind of quiets your brain down. So it makes sense that drinking a big cup of it with tons of tea bags going to boost that GABA. And then I didn't even know that it had electrolytes, and I've been drinking electrolytes a lot lately, lots more water. So chamomile, there you have it, has electrolytes.
Yeah. And you know, this is an herb that you can definitely grow in your garden, and then you'll be sure it's organic, right? I once had a big patch of chamomile, probably 3 feet by 3 feet, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And it would call to me every day. It was so pretty out, all the little yellow flowers, and they would call to me every day. And finally I just went over and went, okay, I'm not too busy, I'm going to come sit by you. And when I sat by them, I just went, oh, I get it, you're looking at the sun. And they were so happy. So I call chamomile one of my happy herbs, and it seems to affect a lot of children that way too. You can give them chamomile baths, you can take a chamomile bath, you can drink a cup of chamomile tea, but it seems to be very soothing, not only to the nervous system, but to the stomach as well, and just helps everybody calm the heck down, right?
How would one take a chamomile bath? Because almost daily I'm taking baths that have Epsom salts and other different types of salts, like Dead Sea salt, and plant essential oils with like a scented candle in there and beautiful instrumental music. How would one take a chamomile bath, or add that to the bath that I was talking about?
Well, you did mention essential oils, and chamomile is an essential oil. It's a little bit expensive. Don't ever buy chamomile that isn't organic, but the organic chamomile is a little expensive. I remember once I didn't know how expensive it was, and I took a whole tablespoon and put it in my bathtub. That was glorious. That was absolutely wonderful. I'd been in pain a lot in my back, and it took the pain right out. It was great. It's anti-spasmodic, right? So, but you can actually just get the chamomile flowers themselves and put them in old sock, or you can put them in a bath herb bag that you buy, or an old, something that like that, and tie it onto the faucet, and then just run hot water through your bathtub through that, and it'll be glorious.
Nice.
And if you're purchasing essential oil of chamomile, you want to make sure that it's steam distilled, because those are the good quality essential oils. Otherwise, essential oils can be derived from the flowers by using a solvent. It's not as common with chamomile, but you want to make sure that it's organically grown and steam distilled. Then you'll get the good quality essential oil. And as Jane said, it is fairly expensive.
Yeah, but you can always just get a big bag of chamomile. You can order it on Amazon and basically get those flowers and put them, in a bath herb bag, or something that you just tie onto your faucet and let run the hot water through it.
And what about that tea with like 3 to 4 tea bags, for example,
Yeah.
for morning or daytime anxiety or mental or physical restlessness
Absolutely.
without going to sleep?
Absolutely. For some people, chamomile is their total ally. I mean, it is the one herb that will make them feel incredible. And it's an herb that you can use as a simple, you can start off, if you're worried about it, you can always start off with 1 tea bag and see how it makes you feel, or a few sips if you think you could possibly be allergic. I'm really not very worried about that in my practice. I've never seen anyone that was. Basically, you can also make tea by just adding a big handful of chamomile flowers into your hot water and letting it sit without, in hot water, not steaming or not simmering. Thank you, John. Not simmering or boiling, but just sitting. That's called steeping. And you can let it steep with the lid on for like 10 minutes and then drink it that way, and it's quite great. Some people find it a little bit bitter, and it is a little bit bitter. So and that helps actually your stomach and all your digestive processes as well. So in fact, sometimes we mix it with peppermint, and that's called tummy tonic. A lot of times people will get upset stomachs just from feeling anxious. So a little bit of peppermint in that chamomile will be really super great.
Yeah, people quitting alcohol and opioids commonly have stomach issues when they're detoxing. Yes, it just feels so bad.
Yeah. So anyway,
all right. How about
we
Hawthorne?
love chamomile.
I don't think I know anything about the next one on the list, Hawthorne. I've heard it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. Where does that play in, you guys?
You want to talk about Hawthorne, John?
Sure. So Crataegus oxycantha, Hawthorne berry, is a superb heart herb. Being a berry, a fruit, it's got a high in soluble fiber, which is going to lower your serum cholesterol levels, and also it strengthens the heart. Hawthorne. I had a student whose dad was on heart medications, and she made a tincture, soaked the hawthorne berries in some brandy, and made a little heart tonic. And
or you could do it in just glycerin.
Yeah, if you don't want the alcohol.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is
No, well, there's
That's
some
good.
people listening are not addicted to alcohol at all,
right. They're just
and they're not
opioids.
worried about it. It's like other drugs. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So and it works fine in a tea also, or you can just grind it up and take it in capsules. But it strengthens the heart, and so her dad, after taking this for about a week, was able to get off his heart medication. Now, if you do something like this, of course, you want to do it under the supervision of your doctor instead of just cold turkey on your heart medication. But the hawthorn is generally safer and more effective than the pharmaceuticals for that.
Yes, Rosemary Gladstar, who basically is who kind of started the renaissance of herbalism in America today, was our teacher, and she really recommended hawthorn for the heart and also for the blood vessels. I might mention, though, just one disclaimer for it. If you're on heart medication, Hawthorne sometimes has been known to interfere with the heart medication on some interesting level. So she believes that you can take it with heart medication. I always say be safe. Ask your doctor, give it a small try. Always take herbs 4 hours away from any medication that you might be on, and that's a good way to not get too much interaction. So, but Hawthorne is a wonderful herb too, to put in your nighttime tea, even along with chamomile if you want. And basically, it holds your spirit inside your heart. That's what they say about Hawthorne. It keeps your spirit from wandering around and puts it back where it belongs, inside your heart chakra. So I love Hawthorne. I think it's a beautiful plant. It's certainly a sacred plant for the Celtics, and it grows really well out here in the northern states, especially up in Oregon and Northern California maybe. Does it grow back east? I'm sure it does. Grows in England like crazy.
Yeah, it's actually a hedge. The word haw means hedge, and it has thorns on it. Hedge with thorn, Hawthorne. Mm-hmm. It's also like chamomile, a nervine. So it's also going to nourish and balance your nervous system.
I didn't know that. Good. Wonderful. Yeah, Hawthorne tastes great too. It's one of those herbs, the same way you would take it as chamomile, you would let it simmer maybe a little bit longer. A lot of people, unless it's crushed, you would actually steep it, or you could simmer it because it is a hard berry. So take your pick on that one. A lot of herbalists have a lot of big ideas on how you should do everything, and you can learn yourself what works best for you. It's pretty user friendly.
And then is Hawthorne kind of like Motherwort? Motherwort, the one thing I know about it is that it gladdens your heart.
Oh,
that's all
sweet.
I know.
Well, Motherwort is probably my favorite herb for when, before I go to the doctor, to get my blood pressure, because it actually lowers blood pressure pretty fast. It can stop a racing heart and calm it down. Not stop it, but calm it down. It can, it's super bitter, so it's also great for the liver. And I really love Motherwort because when I use it, I usually combine it with some lavender glycerin to make it taste better. But even so, you don't have to. And I usually use it. It's pretty bitter. It's pretty strong as a tea, but you can definitely drink it as a tea. You can also make it in a glycerin, or you can definitely put it in some tincture. However you do it, a big swig of it or a big cup of it basically will make you feel like you can handle 100 people coming to your house, even though you've been working with people all day.
If you guys have some in your apothecary,
yes.
I'd like to bring home a sample after this.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And like I said, I have had women just give up their Xanax. They don't even need it because they're on Motherwort and glycerin. In fact, I've had a schizophrenic be able to give up her anti-anxiety meds because she was on Motherwort and glycerin. So, and after a while, you kind of calms your body in general, and you get used to being more calm. So I think it's a pretty incredible herb myself, especially, again, if you have heart palpitations or, racing heart or any of that.
Yeah, one thing to understand, though, is that what's going to make it good for your digestion is, in fact, the bitter flavor. So it's probably better to kind of get over, making it sweet, because if you make it sweet, the receptors on your tongue send a message to the brain that stimulate all your digestive organs. So you're actually better off having that bitter flavor.
Well, glycerin is actually not sugar, so it works pretty good that way, right?
But it's still sweet, and it's the flavor receptor
we disagree.
on the tongue that sends the message to the brain. It doesn't know if it has calories or not. but it's the flavor that's the trigger.
You can also put it with licorice. That's a little bit sweet as well, and it's another adaptogen that's really pretty great. Are
Yeah,
you
and
going to disagree again?
No, that's fine. I could, but and the nice thing about licorice,
That's
we're
funny.
talking about the Chinese root tonic, Glycyrrhiza glabra, and not those black licorice sticks.
True.
That's a candy. Licorice is actually a tonic, a yin tonic. It's strengthening and building to the two most at-risk organs in our body, which are the liver and the adrenals. And of course, alcohol really is, damaging to the liver. And people that are withdrawing have issues with stress, and that's what impacts that stress load is what impacts and damages the adrenals.
Ron Teagarden, too, the founder of Dragon Herbs, master Chinese
Wonderful
herbalist.
herbs. Yeah.
He often talks about licorice as a way to not only those benefits you guys were talking about, but also to relieve and reduce muscle tension up in the neck, trapezoids, shoulder areas up here.
Well, I've never noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chinese
think
call
of that.
licorice the great harmonizer. It's in almost all their patent remedies. It balances the harsher effects of some of the stronger and more bitter Chinese root tonics.
It's a wonderful, wonderful herb. We have another one here too, lemon balm. Lemon balm is probably one of my all-time absolutely favorite herbs for calming people down. Anyone that gets headaches regularly, anyone who gets stomach aches, anyone whose heart needs to feel a little bit lighter and more youthful will definitely benefit from lemon balm, and also just from calming, so just that whole nervine effect, but it's a digestive effect. It has a brain effect also, and that brain effect is to just just make your brain feel a little bit more clear, a little bit more youthful. And I don't know why that is exactly, but Dioscorides was talking about it. He's an old Greek herbalist from way back.
It's an antiviral, too, right?
Oh gosh, yes, and it's an antiviral. Thank you.
It's like a mild sedative. I
Yes.
can't remember if it boosts GABA. It's been a while since I've talked about
It
that.
relieves fever. Yeah. So I use it in a lot of my formulas for people that have gotten COVID. And it works really well. Yeah.
The first addiction detox supplement I ever saw was probably like 12 years ago.
Right.
I saw it online when I was living in upstate New York.
Yeah.
When I was addicted to opioids, and it was a formula. It's out of business now, but it was called Withdrawal Ease, and one of the main ingredients was lemon balm, and it
Nice.
showed like the benefits for the stomach, for the nervous system, and for other things, and that was a
For
great
headaches.
addition.
Yeah.
And I tried it,
And
and
anxiety.
that product worked really good back then.
Yeah, it's the one herb that helps my daughter every time. She was very sensitive growing up, very nervous, and she'd get headaches pretty easily and stomach aches. She'd get really bad migraines. And I found if I just made her a cup of fresh lemon balm tea, and I would go pick it out of my garden. I could show you some right now, except some of the critters really like my lemon balm. Around here they love it. I have healthy bugs.
Yeah, what about you,
Insects.
Dad, on lemon balm?
Yeah, on lemon balm, Melissa officinalis in the mint family. One of my favorite herbs for sure. They say lemon balm is for melancholy, for
Yes,
finding
for
yourself
grief.
in life situations
Yeah.
you're not ready to accept. It's
That's true.
yeah, it's antidepressant, as we had said, antiviral. It's also a nervine, like the chamomile and the hawthorne berry. So it's relaxing to the body, nourishing the nervous system, and the essential oil for this herb is really expensive, but very, very, very effective. The best way to do it really is grow it yourself. Excuse me, grow it yourself, because when it dries, it's going to lose. Once all the water is evaporated out of it, a good portion of the essential oil is going to be lost. And the fact that there's not much essential oil in it in the first place is what makes that essential oil so darn expensive. But it can actually even be vaporized, and you can vaporize the fresh leaves of that. You don't have to dry it to burn it, to smoke it, but you can just put it in a vaporizer, the fresh leaves, and the vaporizer will dry it out enough to release the vapors from that and the essential oil. And I actually was hired by 2 NASA engineers to conduct a herbal vapor therapy study, and one of the herbs that we used in that study was lemon balm, and that scored really high. People really, really liked it, in the vaporizer, and that was even using the dry herb. But my preference is using the fresh.
Yes, and one other thing, my daughter and I fell so in love with lemon balm, and then one day, years later, I was reading this little tea book, and it was talking about King Louis, I think from the 1600s, whichever one that was in France, basically had proclaimed that they should grow lemon balm in every garden. And that's exactly what Callie and I had been saying about lemon balm when we were in love with it when she was young. We were saying, wow, this should be in everyone's garden. And then we read that the King of France had proclaimed that. So we were pretty like, oh my gosh, that was good validation. I do want to say too that you can, lemon balm really responds to you talking with it and telling it what you want to do with that herb. One night, I remember when Matt, if I can tell this little story, he had gone back to New York because his girlfriend was having a baby and she wanted him to be the baby daddy. And it was Christmas, and I was concerned about him going back, and I was pretty sad. So I took the lemon balm, some fresh lemon balm that I still had in the garden, and I put it in a cup of water and set it out in the moonlight. When you set herbs in the moonlight, it kind of helps them become more to heal your emotions. So I did that, and I let it sit for about an hour and brought it in. I warmed it up. And what I found was every time I took a sip of it, my heart just sort of opened and I wasn't sad. I went, oh, that feels so good, And then another thing with lemon balm, you can actually take a bath in it as well. And I took a bath in fresh lemon balm once, and it wouldn't let me get out of the bathtub. It was so relaxing, and I felt like I had a moon goddess sitting on my bathtub, just saying, oh, I would try to get up, and she'd say, oh, no, 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 you sit right back down there. So if you can't relax, get in a bath with the moon balm, with the lemon balm.
Ooh, moon balm, that's a cool name.
Moon balm, yeah. And then, and drink that tea, and you'll be feeling pretty darn good. Okay?
Yeah, and lavender.
Lavender. Do you want to start with lavender?
I use lavender daily.
Oh, you do? What do you do, Matt?
In the baths, I put
you're really
lavenders
doing it, yeah.
either in the bath or in the diffuser, peppermint and lavender while I'm working.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so lavender is another mint family plant. A lot of people just really love lavender.
Yes.
I put it in my, I make an herbal beauty cream and I put it in there. Lavender is another antidepressant, another herb that's good for finding yourself in life situations that are difficult. We've extracted it in glycerin before because it's fairly bitter. But I was out in the yard one day and Jane took her pre-clinic class out there to make a flower essence actually with some herb. And I was sitting on the bench and one of my students came over to me and said, "What are you doing, John?" And I said, "What does it look like I'm doing?" She said, "Well, it looks like you're sitting there with lavender flower shoved up your nose."
Oh dear.
and she said, "What are you doing that for?" I said, "Why don't you try it and see?" A few hours later, she came up to me after Jane's class was over, and she said, "John, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been the best day of my life." Because every time she breathed in through her nose, that essential oil was going to that limbic region of the brain, that deep memory, and just given her that incredible experience. By then, of course, I'd long taken mine out. But yeah, lavender is really incredible in that way.
Yes, and it's such a quick fix if you have lavender and glycerin, it's such a quick fix to just take a little bit internally and just feel so much calmer. You don't have to do it with the motherwort. That's just kind of how my favorite thing. But you can do it just with the lavender and glycerin. You can put a little lavender in tea. A lot of people like chamomile and lavender tea at night before they go to bed. For some people, the lavender is stimulating.
Really?
To take a bath in lavender at night will refresh them and wake them up instead of making them drowsy. So before you're counting on lavender to put you to sleep at night, you better try it at some other time so it doesn't keep you awake. I love even a little lavender on your wrist sometimes can help you sleep. And sometimes it can just help you feel better about everything. Lavender is pretty incredible herb, yeah. And they have lavender farms, and those are really fun to go visit. We have one here in San Diego, and it's just, it just makes you feel happy. We've been talking about some pretty happy herbs, but lavender really helps you feel peace as well. Just a lot of peace. And it's very refreshing. It'll make you feel fresh. So if you've been around a lot of negative energy, you might want even a spritzer of lavender essential oil, and then you can put it around you after you've been dealing with a lot of trauma or negative energy. A lot of times at Christmas when people come to our house, I'll spray them. I'll either sage them with some smoke from the white sage plant, or I'll spray them with some lavender essential oil, and both work really good for helping them just kind of relax and be a little clearer, not feel so upset. Oh, I know a lavender story. Can I tell it?
Yeah,
or do we have
please.
time?
We do.
I tell this one a lot at our gift making workshop in December. But when I was younger and I had all these kids like Matt and Benny and Callie were all my little kids, and then we'd host Christmas at our house because we had the big house, and our family would come down from Northern California, and my sister would come over, and then my sister-in-law would come over, and all their families. And I remember one Christmas, it was Christmas Eve, and I woke up and I was tired and grumpy, and everyone had left. The whole house was a complete disaster, and I had so much to do besides cooking. Now I had to clean everything all over again. I was really irritated, and I left the house in a big huff, and I was really mad. I was walking down the hill, kind of mumbling under my breath, and then I saw some flowers, and I thought, oh, if I could just get some flowers, then I know I'll be okay, So then I walked down to the little herb shop down the street from us, which was owned by our students, and our friend Arisha was there, and I was telling her the story and how grumpy I was, and she kept making me smell every different kind of essential oil of lavender there was, until I finally calmed down and wasn't angry anymore. And I called home to tell John I need some flowers, but he wasn't there. And I walked to the beach and I sat down on a hill and I meditated, and Santa Claus showed up, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That hadn't happened before.
The spirit of Santa.
Yeah, the
Claus.
spirit of Santa. And he said, well, what do you want for Christmas, little girl? And I said, well, I'd just like to get some flowers. And he goes, well, that's easy. And I went, okay. I just, and I wasn't thinking much about it. It just seemed like, that was weird. Okay, fine. So I walked back to the herb shop, and I walked back home. And when I got home, no sooner had I got home than John walked up the stairs with a huge bouquet of flowers. And to this day, he tells me it was a little birdie told him, not Arisha. Was it a birdie or was it Arisha?
There's a birdie.
Okay. So anyway, there was Santa sending me flowers, and then my sister came in and brought me flowers. My daughter-in-law called, and she said, "How are you doing, Jane?" And before that, I said, "Well, I'm grumpy." She said, "Well, come on." I think I called her from the herb shop. She said, "Well, come on home. We already cleaned the whole house, and we bought you flowers." And then my sister-in-law came over, and she brought flowers. And my daughter, not my daughter, my actual sister came over and brought me flowers. And then my little boy came over, Benny, and he was like 9 years old, and he came running up the stairs, and he was so cute, and he handed me these 3 kind of limp roses. And he said, Mom, I forgot who I am. He said, the lady at the herb shop, I only had enough money for 1 rose for you, but she gave me 3.
At the flower shop.
At the flower shop, yeah. So that was so cute. And I cried. It was very sweet. And I thought, wow, next year I better ask Santa Claus for something even better,
I'm doing an online course right now from a lady that's Australian.
Yeah.
And her course is great. It's about energy. It's about basically, it's kind of like an entrepreneurship course, but it's more like kind of like how to have a soul-based business type style.
Oh, nice.
And she loves flowers so much. I forget her exact favorite kind, but she has like a flower budget.
Right.
And even though they die, I think it's like $25 a week, she just makes sure she always has fresh flowers because it makes her feel way
Happy.
better being around those types of
Happy.
things in her home and in her office. How about, I keep thinking that says scallops, but that's skullcap.
It does, but we were just talking about the rose.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
rose.
you need to take a rose bath for sure. That's going to be incredible. And you can buy roses online pretty easily. Again, buy organic roses. And if you take a rose bath, you're going to feel very loved and very happy. And you can definitely put them in tea, and it'll just be super soothing. Do you want to say something, John?
Well, rose opens the heart. That's why a lot of times, guys will give their wives or girlfriends, a dozen roses, for example.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and actually, the rose flower, the vibrational aspect of that as a flower essence, is for love of life. And so, if you take that flower essence, a few drops of that, and say the affirmation, "I love life," then if you were feeling like life sucks and then you die, in a very short time you're going to feel gratitude for having breath come into you and keeping you alive.
Nice.
Absolutely. Our nephew just died. He was 34 and he just died. And, people were bringing flowers and flowers and flowers. And, it really helped to have those flowers around. It really took care of people's hearts and made them feel like they could, just bear it a little bit more. Very sweet.
At the inpatient treatment programs, where people go residential treatment, whether it's 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, something like that. It's often in like medical facility settings where there's fluorescent lights, not a lot of beauty, doctors and nurses in the outfits. What if there was like a treatment program that was in beautiful, like 5 acres of beautiful forest and land, and there was just giant gardens, rose gardens and flower gardens, just gardens and gardens and streams and koi fish ponds just everywhere, and like gong music going around, just like a super peaceful place with like elixir bars doing like Chinese tonic herb elixirs
and good organic food. Yeah, I think we all need these things and should basically give these gifts of nature to ourselves, whether you drink the teas or whether you walk in the trees. You're going to get healing. Like, we're sitting under this beautiful pine tree right now, and pine trees definitely give you a feeling and an energy of peace, and they also help you deal with guilt. So just being in pine trees can relieve so much trauma that people have been through. And I think Matthew has just the absolute right idea. So walks in the park, I know in Balboa Park here in San Diego, we have a Japanese garden, and that garden has cherry blossoms in it, and cherry blossoms are so sweet. They have so much love. You feel unity, you feel peace, and almost every flower has some kind of some kind of essence that's been attached to it, that like zinnias I'm looking at right now are for childlike joy and peace. So even if you only have one plant in your house that you love, or if you grow a whole garden, it's going to be just something very uplifting to get you out of sorrow and sadness and back to your own truth within yourself, and a little bit more joy. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, well, the thing about the plants is they're grounded, they're connected. They're connected to the earth, they're connected to their own spirit, and they do have a spirit. They're living beings. They've been here 1,000 times longer than we have. We're the new kids on the block. They're very evolved in this world. And they have just such a sweet spirit, all of them, that just being around plants. That's why if you go for a walk in nature, you almost always come back feeling better, because you've been influenced by these plant beings that are in harmony with the nature around them and with themselves. They're grounded and connected. And that's a great part of our dis-ease, which we call disease, is that we're not grounded, we're not connected. And a large part of how the plants heal us is by reconnecting us to the earth and to our own spirit.
Some of the herbs we left off before, I think it was for your heart, herbs for your heart mostly, and herbs for nervines and natural sedatives and mood boosters and lots of various actions. So we're going to finish up those, then we're going to go into adaptogens, one of my favorite topics, and there's lots of different wonderful adaptogens. And so with that, my mom, this is Jane Richmond, and that's my dad, John Finch. They're the founders of Self-Heal School of Herbal Studies and Healing here in San Diego, California, where they've been teaching herbology and other natural medicine modalities for several decades here in Southern California. So you can start us off, Mom, and thanks so much.
Oh, great. Well, we certainly enjoyed sharing yesterday, and we're happy to continue. We just couldn't get it all in. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple more nervines that I think are really super important for building your nervous system. Skullcap, in fact, is one of the herbs we're going to talk about right now. Skullcap, basically it is a nervine that really helps you sleep, but it restores the nervous system, and it's been used probably for centuries to help with delirium tremens, and did I say that right? Yeah. And insomnia, and just restoring the nervous system. Sort of if you're jittery or shaky or just fried, Skullcap is definitely the herb for you. And I know John loves this herb especially. Do you want to say anything about it, John?
Sure. Skullcap, Scutellaria lateriflora, is a really beautiful herb in the first place. But what we say about Skullcap is that it quiets nerve fire. So in the last episode we talked about nervines, and that they contain electrolytes. They contain minerals, and minerals are conductors, which means they conduct electricity. And our nervous system, in fact, is electrochemical. And so the nervines provide these minerals as long as the herb is grown organically or harvested from the wild. Then it'll have these minerals in there, and it helps to quiet nerve fire. So it's something that's really good for withdrawals or for stress.
There's a product called it's from the company Gaia Herbs. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I'm not sure if it's still on the market, but it's called Sound Sleep.
Right.
And I'm it was either that product or another one. They used to have one called Serenity, and they were liquid phytocaps. So I guess extracts of herbal nervines. And I think the combination I'm talking about had Skullcap, valerian, passionflower,
Oh, yeah.
maybe lemon balm in there too, and kava. And so I've used that before for coming off, way back in the day, used that for coming off of alcohol or for anxiety. And I remember one of my friends, she was coming off Xanax, and fast forward many years, this is when I first started being a recovery coach, and she was asking me, what are some Xanax alternatives? I told her to go down to the People's Food Store Co-op and see if they have Gaia Herbs Serenity. She went and got that, and she just took one of those soft gel phytocaps 3 times a day, and she said it was so powerful that she was able to easily taper off. And she was on a small dose of Xanax daily. It wasn't in anything serious. But then, yeah, I've recommended those different types of formulas to a lot of people. I don't know much about Skullcap, though.
Yeah, Skullcap is definitely in my sleep formula every night, and it just quiets the mind. A lot of people say it's good for meditation too. If you drink it before you meditate, your meditation will be a lot smoother, a lot quieter, and a lot of people have that racing mind at night before they go to bed, so Skullcap is another herb that really helps with that. But Matthew mentioned Passionflower, and that is one of my all-time favorite herbs for sleep and anxiety and just feeling better in general, feeling incredible. I know when Matt was young, I did some cards for him, and he was asking me about things, and he picked a card from the Herbal Tarot deck, and it was Passionflower. So I made him up like a little 1-ounce tincture and told him to take like a dropper full before bed, and then to get the energy of that to just take 3 drops. Anyway, so Matt drew the Passionflower herb, and then I made his bed before he went to bed, and then in the morning he said to me, "Mom, that was the best sleep I ever had. How did you make my bed last night so great?" And I had to laugh because I knew it was the Passionflower. And actually, I'd heard that story again at some convention I was at. I had a gal who was sleeping next door, and I'd given everybody Passionflower, and she was telling her friend, she said, your bed is so much more comfortable than mine. So Passionflower really, really helps you relax deeply and gives you that kind of just full-on deep sleep. There's probably, a lot of people who have studied all the dream states and things like that could tell you about Passionflower and sleep. But that's basically what I've heard. People just love it. You also kind of have a lot of dreams that are technicolor, but they always seem very uplifting to me anyway when I do Passionflower. What about you, John?
Dad knows a lot about passionflower.
Yeah.
I bet he does. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 passion flowers. Passiflora incarnata is the medicinal one. The other passion flower has a fruit that sometimes people, Passiflora edulis, they grow for the fruit, but incarnata is the one that helps people sleep. It's interesting how it works. So the neurotransmitter that puts us to sleep is actually serotonin. And serotonin is a short-acting, dark-activated neurotransmitter. So in other words, when it gets dark, our brain releases that.
You're talking about melatonin or serotonin?
Yeah, either one.
Okay.
I mean, they convert into each other.
Right.
So, when that neurotransmitter is released, it tells you sleep, sleep, sleep. But then an enzyme comes and takes that apart. It's done its job. That enzyme is monoamine oxidase. And so what Passionflower does is it inhibits that enzyme. It's an MAOI, a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, so that it actually binds with the that enzyme and binds with it for like 4 or 5 hours, and then it releases it so that that enzyme goes ahead and takes that neurotransmitter apart, and you wake up in the morning with no drug hangover, and a good night's sleep.
I want to do a little disclaimer at this point as well. So if you're on like Ambien or any of the other drugs that they use for sleep, don't combine them with herbs. It gives you just too strong of an effect. So that's kind of my words of wisdom for that.
And Passionflower is a natural anxiolytic, antidepressant, sleep aid, tummy tonic aid, and it boosts natural levels of GABA and then serotonin and dopamine, I believe, but mostly GABA.
Yes, I had one client who Passionflower was her complete ally. She had come to me because her dad had died and she'd gone to a psychiatrist who kept trying to give her, because she found that she was just crying all the time. And he tried to give her all these different, pharmaceutical drugs, but one of them just didn't register with her, so she wanted to see if there was anything herbal that would help. She was actually a nurse, and the drug that he had given her was making her feel like jumping off her motorcycle and chopping off people's heads. And she said, "Jane, that's not like me. I'm a nurse." So I'm laughing in a way, but I kind of wonder about other people that are taking, sometimes a pharmaceutical will work for you and sometimes it won't. So you have to really work with your doctor.
Right.
Anyway, she was able to get off it because of Passionflower, and she was able to function and be normal in the world and all that. And she just fell in love with the plant. She actually picked the leaves off of the one with the fruit and did just fine with that and made her own teas at home. So either way, it kind of works. Yeah.
And do you recommend, you drink a lot of Passionflower tea before bed mixed with other things as well? Do you still do that?
I usually mix up my, sometimes I'll do some herbs before bed and then I'll change them out. But Passionflower is definitely one of my favorite to have in the herb tea. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then we got Valerian?
Yeah, and you can take Passionflower just on its own too. It's just fine. We have Valerian. I'm just going to let John talk about that for a while because that's like his favorite herb. It smells like dirty socks, by the way.
Dirty gym socks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Valerian officinalis, we use the root of that, and it does taste pretty bad, but it's a very effective nervine and sedative and muscle relaxer. So again, the muscle relaxing property, antispasmodic, is partly due to the calcium in it, high amount of calcium. But again, if it's not organically grown or harvested from the wild, those minerals won't be in it. So you want to make sure you always get high quality herbs. Otherwise, it's something that is good skeletal muscle relaxer. So if you have cramps in your muscles, it's really excellent for that. And if that's something that's been preventing you from sleeping well, it'll affect that. At the same time, it's a nervine, and we've been talking about nervine, herbs with minerals in them that help with your nervous system. And if you're withdrawing from alcohol or drugs, then you have extra stress, which gives you more nerve excitement. That more nerve excitement actually burns out the minerals in your synapses, and so the term is burned out really, and it's a very appropriate term. Whereas if you reinforce, if you supplement herbs that provide those minerals, then it keeps that nerve fire more calm and steady, and you don't get so jumpy and irritated and irritable. It's interesting, they did a study with valerian, and you would think that it would, since it's a central nervous system depressant, that it would slow down your reaction time, but they actually did a study where, like when I took driver training in high school, we had a little trailer we went in, and you had a little steering wheel and all that stuff like a car. And at one point they had a reaction test where you saw a red light and then you hit the brake, and it measured the amount of time it took from that red light to that break, and they found actually that people on valerian had faster reaction times.
Whoa.
I was a professional drummer, and valerian was one of the herbs that I took in combination with ashwagandha and some other things to help me drum, and it really did help. So the thing is, if you do too much valerian, you're going to end up with a drug hangover in the morning. You'll be kind of groggy. And so you want to watch the dosage on that. It doesn't take a whole lot to get you there.
I love valerian, but too much of it doesn't work for me. It wakes me up. So that is a little problem with this herb. You have to kind of see if it's an herb for you. But it really relaxes your whole musculoskeletal system. It's very antispasmodic. And it also, I found that even one drop of a tincture of valerian was enough to help me have a whole sound night's sleep. Just one drop. Anything more than that, and it seemed like it was just too much. But a lot of people think that valerian is actually what they make Valium with, but it's not true. It's not true.
Well, it boosts, valerian boosts natural GABA.
That's right.
And GABA's our brain's endogenous neuropharmacy's
Yes.
Valium, endogenous Valium. So that's kind of
So
cool.
definitely you could use it in replace of something like with Valium, but not with Valium, right? A lot of people want to get even more relaxed, but really don't mix these herbs, especially valerian's so strong.
And
So-
what I say about valerian is that
Yeah.
it's not reliable. And by that I mean valerian has two separate compounds in it, valipotriates they're called. One set actually nourishes and supports the sympathetic nervous system, which is more in dominance when you're awake. And one of them supports the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more in dominance when you're asleep or in meditation. And so depending on your biorhythm, where your biorhythm is at the time, valerian can actually wake you up, even if you take it at night. So
it's like a double direction, like some of the Chinese herbs
That's
have
right.
a double direction. It could give you energy depending on your physiology and biochemistry and state, or it can make you more relaxed, or it can make you kind of relaxed and energized at the same time, which is my favorite.
It's pretty terrific in that way. It does work that way as well, Matt, if you take it during the day. Some people really suggest, some herbalists suggest that if you want to use valerian for sleep, that you actually take like a dropperful or less 3 times a day during the day, and then you're more likely to be healing your nervous system and be more ready for sleep at night. So that's pretty great too. Yeah. I do want to mention though the sympathetic nervous system. That reminds me of my other incredibly favorite herb, which is called Gota Kola. And that herb works on your sympathetic nervous system. So you can drink Gota Kola at night. It's actually a brain tonic and helps you think a lot better. So I often have Gota Kola before I try to teach class at night. I might be a little tired. I might be a little bit, feeling a little bit my age on occasion. So I'll have some Gota Kola and a little bit of peppermint with it and a little bit of rosemary as a brain tonic. And the great thing about it is I can drink it, be really clear, and be able to think and study at night, but then it also helps me sleep, which is kind of amazing if you think about it. So it's a great, what would you call it, an adaptogen, John, or a?
It's more of a brain tonic.
It is a brain tonic.
It's actually
yeah.
indigenous to India and this surrounding terrain. The elephants eat it.
Yeah.
That's a favorite browse, what they call, of the elephants. And they say due to that, do we know elephants that have long memories? You take an elephant somewhere, and like 20 years later, he can find that place again. And also long life. It's actually,
Or remember you.
it is an adaptogen in that sense that it's a life extension herb. They actually did studies in India with school children and found that it raised their IQ, their intelligence quotient, made them actually smarter. In India, they call the sacred bull the Brahma bull. Brahma, of course, is one of the is the creator. Their name for the creator, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. But they call Gota Kola Brahmi. So that's the sacred herb and the oldest herb tradition in the world, which is Ayurveda. So it's revered there, and for very good reason.
How does that compare? Is it in the same category, more or less, or similar to ginkgo biloba?
It has different, the ginkgoloids and bilobaloids in ginkgo work slightly differently, but it has the same effect.
It's like a brain tonic.
It's a brain tonic, exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah, they're both brain tonics, but Gota Kola does have that kind of mellowing effect on your whole nervous system, so you're kind of relaxed and you're kind of awake at the same time until it's time for you to go to sleep, and then it just supports that too. To me, that herb is super magical, and we use it in our clinic a lot for so many things. Yeah.
All right. How about Reishi or Reishi?
Yeah, Reishi's another, it's not exactly a nervine. We kind of finished with the nervine herbs for now, although there's many. But Reishi I really love. It's sort of another heart herb. It really helps your whole cardiovascular system. I remember this one guy passed it around our pre-clinic. He'd made a pretty strong tea of Reishi, right? And that's a mushroom. And an ancient Chinese mushroom, and John will...
The mushroom of immortality.
Well, yeah, by the way. Thanks, Matt. Anyway, he passed it around. We all drank it, and we all went, oh my gosh, we felt like we had just experienced God.
I took 40 drops of wild red reishi
40?
extract
Wow.
from dragon herbs right before I drove over here.
You did? Wow.
Well, it's only 2 droppers full.
Well,
the recommended is 3. I'm relaxed.
Yeah, reishi it just seems to, it also has a great affinity for your immune system. It opens your crown chakra, which I think is really important in recovery. A lot of people feel kind of lost in this life, and it's one that really connects you and makes you feel when you're walking around like you're already in meditation. So what meditation is to kind of connect you with yourself, your deepest self, and also with your creator. So reishi kind of does that for you. Gives you a little hop, skip, and a jump. I like it in powdered caps myself, but as tea, it's pretty incredible. I do remember Amanda McQuaig Crawford, I'll give her a shout out. She's my incredible herb teacher. You can find her probably online.
We'll put in the show notes the episode that I interviewed her too, because she's been on the show. Yeah,
and she told us the story of reishi, and she told it so much better than I will, but I love this story, and I always remember it. She said the forces of good and evil in China at the time were battling, and basically the forces of evil were winning, and all the forces of good were on the battlefield, and they were basically dying. They were just laying there dying, and the birds knew that this could not happen. I guess they were good birds. I don't know. But anyway, they went and got the reishi mushroom, and they took it and dropped it in each soldier's mouth, and they came back and they won the fight. So I thought that was pretty great. And I feel like for people struggling with cancer and a lot of different things that are bothering their immune system, that this is a great herb to take, especially even for preventive. I've never heard anyone say it's preventive against COVID. I don't think you can say that. But I think you can just say it really is a great immune tonic, and a great cardiovascular tonic, and a great spirit herb. Definitely should be helping you even sleep sometimes too, although I think it's probably not one I do right before bed myself. What about you, John?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that all you're going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll just add that, spirit tonic, or in traditional Chinese medicine, that modality, that system of health. They call it a Shen tonic. And that has to do with the three treasures, which are
nice.
Jing, Qi, and Shen. Are you good at explaining that, Dad? Because I know what it is, but I'm not going to try and teach it on the podcast right now.
Not really.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
Qi, I'll just do it really simply. Qi is like your energy. You know how much energy you have, and Jing is how much energy you were born with, and then Shen is your spirit. You know, the strength in your soul and your spirit. So that's all. So it helps all those things, body, mind, and spirit, basically, right?
Yeah, it's my favorite Shen tonic because it makes me not only be more relaxed, in a more positive mood, but it just feels like I'm meditating throughout the day.
Yeah.
I take it 3 times a day. Recently, I started to take it 3 times a day, and all day it just feels like a living prayer meditation.
Yeah. Yeah. So how great is that? It also puts you in touch with your own. I was saying how people feel lost. I think it puts you in touch with your own purpose, like why you are here. What's your song? You know, what's your, need to express in this life? Who are you? You know, what is your...
Helps you discover your
what's
dharma.
your gift? Yeah, your dharma. Yeah, I'm reading that book. I love that. What about you, John, for ginseng? You want to talk about ginseng?
Sure.
Well,
Here's
first
another.
we should give a description of adaptogens now that we're in the adaptogens.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so an adaptogen is generally the adaptogens are chi tonics, which give you more energy. And so if you have more energy, you're able to adapt to stress, to the changing environment. And so ginseng is really good at that. It gives you a lot of energy. There's actually 2 kinds of ginseng.
Really helps your adrenals as well.
Yeah, unless you
Yeah.
take too much, and then you can overstimulate
Okay,
them.
go ahead.
So, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. There's 2 kinds of ginseng. Panax ginseng, which is the Eastern Asian ginseng, and the word Panax comes from the root panaxia, that's where the word panacea comes from. And a panacea, of course, is something that's good for everything. And it's revered in China. So I attended a workshop by Dan Mowry. He was the solar ray research herbalist, and he gave a great talk about Panax ginseng, and American ginseng. American ginseng is Panax quinquefolium. So ginseng is actually the species. Panax is the genus. And the Asian ginseng gives you more energy. It has 2 kinds of compounds in it that they labeled RG and RB. RG stimulates the yang, gives you more energy. RB stimulates the yin, so it's more nourishing. And a good Panax ginseng has 2 parts of RB and 1 part RG. I'm sorry, that's the other way. 2 parts of RG and 1 part of RB. American ginseng, Panax quinquefolium, doesn't have any RG in it. So it doesn't stimulate the yang, but it's a very nice and balancing, yin nourishing herb. And I believe that we have the right one in America because we are a little over testosterone. And that's the other thing about ginseng, the Panax ginseng. It's actually a phytotestosterone. So it actually gives you more of that yang testosterone. There's imperial roots in ginseng in China that are that you can pay $3,000 for.
Wow.
Yeah. And what the Chinese herbalists there will do is they'll take an imperial root and just soak it in alcohol for 15 years to extract it. Yeah. And then you just take a little tiny bit of that and it does its business. But interestingly, the American Revolution was fought not over the Boston Tea Party, but over ginseng. the tax on tea, which they say that's what it was about. Tea at that time was probably 5 cents a pound. The tax on it was nothing. So that little bit was going to the King of England. But mostly the French trappers were digging up the American ginseng and exporting it. Most of it exported to China because they knew what to do with it. But that was millions of dollars. So if you're looking for, the movers and shakers in a revolution like that, you don't look for the pennies, you look for the dollars.
Well, that's all very interesting. Wow. I guess I should take his class.
And
Oh,
can we also, ginseng is for so many people so beneficial
Yes.
for when they're quitting substances, particularly when they're really have debilitating fatigue and exhaustion and just no life force. And when people are quitting opioids, this is very common. Just no energy whatsoever. And then taking ginseng daily seems to help a lot of them. Could we also, I see it's not on your list,
Well,
but Dad, could you talk at least for a minute, just real quick, about Peruvian ginseng, even though it's not really ginseng? Maca is a great one for addiction recovery too.
are you talking about maca?
Well,
Just look.
the ginseng I know about from South America is suma, which is Phaphia paniculata. It's in the ginseng family, and it's the South American ginseng, and the people down there use it, just like the Asians use the Panax ginseng.
Yeah, go ahead.
What about maca though?
Maca gives you a lot of the same results.
Yeah, well,
basically.
maca
Yeah.
is a root like a radish, and it's
Like a potato.
it's cruciferous. it's in the mustard family actually, and what they do in Peru and around there is they dig that up, and at the markets, the street markets in Peru, women usually are selling a drink of the maca, and if you ask them, what it's for, and they'll say, well, for the sex, of course. But it really
really works.
It really works. It's a very, very balancing herb, and you can get it in health food stores generally as a powder, and it balances hormones, and it relieves stress. It increases energy. There's just a really long list of
Increases sperm on average
Yeah.
by 300%. Sperm
Yeah.
count and sperm motility.
Yeah, so if you want to get pregnant. But actually ginseng and both ginseng and maca and suma, I think, too. Do you think suma is a good fertility herb? I'm not sure.
sure.
But anyway, all these are great fertility herbs. They're good for both men and women. The one thing I want to say about the Panax ginseng is you can get a headache if you're already drinking too much coffee and then you're taking ginseng. So don't mix your uppers with other uppers, right? And
A lot of the
try a
energy
little
drinks.
bit of it to begin with.
A lot of the energy drinks, I'm not sure which brands, but say maybe it's Monster or Rockstar. They'll put caffeine and guarana and Panax ginseng and some other stuff in there that's stimulating.
Yeah, sometimes stimulation is not always the best thing too. You don't want to be too revved up, and sometimes some of these adaptogens that are stimulating, like ginseng, can really get you going. American ginseng, though, just feeds your adrenals, and it's a lot less buzzy.
That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, but a little bit in a blend would work really well. Yeah. go
I
ahead,
actually,
John.
the first headache I ever got in my life, I've only had two, was from an overdose of ginseng. I was playing in a heavy metal rock trio. I was the drummer, I was a bass player and guitar player. The bass player and guitar player were taking speed, drinking Jack Daniels and drinking coffee. And so I tried to keep up with them on ginseng,
Oops.
and I took too much. And it gave me a headache, and I've never had one before. And it also really messed up my digestion. In fact, I had to tell them, hey, I can't play anymore. They were speeding, they didn't care, they just went on without me. But I didn't know you could take too much, but I found out after that.
Yeah, and I've used it when I'm really, I used to do women's retreats a lot and put them on, and about the second day, I was like, I need that ginseng, and we would make Rosemary Gladstar is a famous herbalist. I think I talked about her before, and she has like ginseng balls you can make, and we did it with like powdered ginseng and peanut butter and spirulina and a couple other things that are really kind of yummy, royal jelly, and then we'd take those, and boy, would I feel great the whole rest of the night, and the next day I'd have all the energy I needed to do anything. It was great.
Sounds good for
Yeah.
addiction recovery too.
Yeah.
Those little ginseng balls.
Yeah, those little ginseng balls might be just perfect. Yeah. Okay. Do you?
Yes. Astragalus.
Some people. Astragalus.
Yeah, we got a few more.
No, yeah, we got a bunch.
Move on,
more.
move
Yeah.
on.
So Astragalus is one of my all-time favorites too. To me, Astragalus, a lot of my students have said who have had this as their herbal ally, that it's like getting a hug from the universe. It's like the whole month they feel protected, they feel loved, they feel like supported, they feel, just grounded and like pretty great. So it's a Chinese herb tonic, and it really helps protect your immune system. It protects you from getting any kind of viruses or bugs. It just helps everything in that way. Do you want to say anything, John?
Sure, Astragalus membranaceous,
Oh,
as
nice.
Jane said, a Chinese root tonic. Yeah, it's interesting how it works. It is somewhat like echinacea in that it's a mucopolysaccharide, which means it's a large molecule that freaks out your immune system, so it sends out immune forces. But it turns out to be something not threatening. But if there are some pathogens in the neighborhood, they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, like what I always say, like a pickpocket at a cops convention. So Astragalus, they've done studies with it, with people undergoing chemo and radiation. And what those things do is they trash your immune. So a lot of people end up in those, I won't call them therapies, treatments, end up with opportunistic infections like pneumonia that ends up killing them. In a study they did, people that took Astragalus had a 5 times higher survival rate from those treatments. And so the Chinese term something external wind, those factors that attack you when you're weak. And what Astragalus does, what I always talk about is like I was a Star Trek or a fan, and so if the Klingons had this ray that would disable the phasers on the Enterprise, then they could just beam aboard and take over with a knife. But if the shields were too strong, then they couldn't get in, and that's basically how Astragalus works. I talk about echinacea being microimmunity because it helps keeps viruses and pathogens out of your cells to infect them. But in fact, Astragalus increases the energy around your body, your aura, if you will, the human HEF, they now call it, human energy field, and it increases that. I liken that to when I was in Hawaii, and I had taken some mushrooms, magic mushrooms, paniolas, and we were going to set up the tent and camp, but we were so high we didn't. And then at dusk, these mosquitoes, I noticed this whole swarm of mosquitoes at the same time they noticed me, and they came at us, and I was freaking out. They got to the edge of my aura and they stopped.
Whoa.
And it wasn't something I was trying to do. It was something that I was amazed that was happening. And they just didn't get into that field. And that's how Astragalus works. It's that powerful. It could protect you from those things that would attack you from the outside.
Yeah. It comes in tongues. It looks like a tongue depressor. It comes like that. It also comes, powdered or cut up. But a lot of people like to use the tongue depressor one and put it in their rice or their soups, so that their immunity stays strong all fall and winter. This is a great time to do it. Having said that, there's many doctors that don't want you to use Astragalus or anything that helps your immune system stay strong during chemo, just letting you know. I don't think the Chinese feel that way, but our American doctors have decided that, a lot of them. So just so you know. Okay.
Holy basil's the next one? Tulsi?
Holy basil.
Ooh, we love this one.
Yeah, I love holy basil. It's kind of a floaty feeling for me. I know this one guy used to take it and he would just float around, and he would take it, the essential oil in a capsule form, which is super strong that way. And I wouldn't recommend taking essential oils internally, but they kind of had it down in this formula. But he said it really worked to just get rid of just that extra anxiety that he carried around from childhood,
And is this an Ayurvedic adaptogen, or is it something?
Well, yeah, it would definitely be Ayurvedic.
Okay.
It's like the holy basil. We use a lot of holy basil in our clinic just because it makes people, it's an adaptogen. It helps their adrenals. It helps their digestion. And it just helps them feel good, basically. It's a feel good.
Good for your skin,
herb.
too.
Ah, good.
So, Jane was talking about taking essential oils internally. And of course we can do that. If you make a peppermint tea, that has essential oils in it. If you do valerian, part of the isovalerianic acid is part of the compound in the essential oil. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to take a lot of essential oil because it's already so concentrated. But in small amounts, it's perfectly okay to take essential oils internally. The interesting thing about basil is in India, where it's
small amounts, like maybe one drop.
A couple of drops, yeah. In
India, depending on the essential oil, you should really learn about essential oils before you try taking them internally.
But in India, where they call basil tulsi, but actually tulsi is a goddess. So it's the spirit of the plant is actually revered as a deity, and what they do is they'll actually sing a little song, say a little prayer as they dance around the plant to exalt the spirit of Tulsi.
Wow, that makes me pretty happy. I can't get into it, but I know a lot of the work we do in our pre-clinic, we get to know the plant spirit basically, and a lot of my students have done that, and they've definitely heard songs while they worked with the plant that they brought back to our community, and it's pretty fun to get to know a plant on a deeper level as a conscious being, for sure. I know a lot of my students went and when they got to know the plant, they were supposed to give the plant a present, and so they asked, I know 2 people this one year went to an elder plant, which is another herb, a beautiful tree, and they asked the elder, what it would like from them, and the elder told them chocolate, so they went home and made the elder tree a chocolate bar and brought it back.
The other thing about basil is that it's
probably a fairy in that tree.
It's a good solvent, actually. So if you have, for example, some people that help to get off alcohol or opiates sometimes use marijuana, which is now legal, and there's less of a stigma about it. It can be addictive for some people, of course, but the THC that can build up in the lungs and damage the lungs, basil is actually a really good solvent for that. So I used to actually, I was a professional drummer for 20 years, and I did my share of marijuana in a water pipe. And I would actually put a couple of drops of the basil essential oil in the water pipe. So when that would get down in my lungs, it would help dissolve the THC and resins that would congest in there and could possibly damage my lungs.
Yeah, I remember it smelled pretty great. Much better than just pot. How about, can you talk about ashwagandha, John? Then we'll talk about these.
Ashwagandha, yeah, sure. Withania somnifera, ashwagandha. It's an Ayurvedic herb, again, native to India and the surrounding area. So ashwagandha is kind of an amazing herb. It's a chi tonic, but it also helps you sleep at night, and that's what the somnifera is about, somnia. It's in a lot of sleep combinations. When I played in this one band with some young guys, we would jam, and we would do ashwagandha, and they were just the most incredible jams. It's a very connecting. What they say about ashwagandha is it imparts to the male of the species the sexual stamina of a stallion. We actually call it the honor system, which is get honor and stay honor. And it actually does work really well for that, for guys. But also at the same time then, it's going to help you sleep at night. So it's a really, really great. It doesn't taste good. Ashwagandha actually is sweat of the horse, is how that translates. And it really does taste like horse sweat, which is not anybody's favorite flavor, but it's a really, really wonderful herb.
You can, though, heat it up with a little bit of coconut oil and a little bit of honey, and then it's not so bad at all. It tastes pretty great. Yeah?
Yeah, it's a really hard herb, and so if you're trying to grind it up to put it in capsules, a coffee grinder is not going to do that. We have, of course, a real strong commercial grinder here, but we order it as a powder because it's not an aromatic herb, and it's not a real astringent herb. Astringents decay pretty quickly if you powder them, and essential oils dissipate quickly if you powder them. But ashwagandha is okay to purchase, and that's what I consider the best way if you're buying it, to get it as a powder if you're going to put it in your own capsules.
Also, John, doesn't it lower cortisol levels? So a lot of people can gain weight and get stressed, and they just can't get their cortisol levels back down to where they need to be. But ashwagandha kind of gets you there, so your habit of being stressed isn't quite as intense as it can be. Do you agree with that?
I don't know it that way, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can all look that up, but that's my understanding of it. We want to help you know a couple herbs too for your liver, because the liver is so important when you're detoxing, of course, because it's the major detoxifier of the body. So we want to talk a little bit about milk thistle. So go ahead, John, talk about that.
Sure, milk thistle. If you look at the plant, it looks like the leaves have had milk spilled over them. But also, it's a galactagogue, which means it increases lactation, breast milk production in nursing mothers. But also, it's a really powerful protector of the liver. A lot of people think it stimulates liver function, and it does to some degree. But the main important part about milk thistle is it is a glycoside. Milk thistle is silymarin, and I'm just going to wait a second here until he's done with that.
Is he done?
I guess. So silymarin is a glycoside in the milk thistle seed. That's the part we use of the milk thistle. And silymarin, actually, that glycoside actually physically coats the cell walls of your liver cells and prevents toxins from entering. In fact, all poison control centers in the world stock MTE, milk thistle extract. It's a concentrated extract of that glycoside. So if you would eat a poison mushroom or something and get to the poison control center on time, you can take that MTE and it could possibly save your life. Now, I don't want to enable people drinking, but of course if people do drink and get intoxicated, what a lot of people don't understand is the word toxic is right in the middle of that word. And alcohol, in some studies, a small amount of alcohol is actually beneficial for people. If you're an alcoholic, no. Okay? But for most people, a small amount of alcohol is actually beneficial. I think that's because our society is so stressed. But a larger amount of alcohol, the liver can only process like 1 ounce of alcohol per hour. If you exceed that, now you're killing liver cells. Excuse me. So a hangover is actually from 2 things: liver cell death and dehydration. So if you take milk thistle seed and then don't drink sugary mixes like rum and Coke, just Coke and rum and water, if you will, or neat, or 7 and 7, skip this 7-Up. Those are real high in sugar, which are dehydrating. So if you maintain your hydration level,
Water.
I had a student that, thank you. I had a student that was a maid of honor at her friend's wedding, and they went to Vegas, baby, for the bachelorette party, and she took the milk thistle seed and she made the bride take it. She didn't want to. The bridesmaids opted out. The next morning, they got up. This lady and the bride got up and went shopping in Vegas. The bridesmaids who opted out were sick as a dog in bed.
Oops.
Oops.
Yeah.
One other thing milk thistle does that's kind of important. So the liver, of course, has a liver enzyme system that tweaks compounds in their metabolic and other waste. But if it gets something that it doesn't recognize, and this is the importance of taking things that are natural, but if you take natural things and combine them together in unnatural ways, then the liver can't recognize it, and so it might be something that's kind of toxic to the liver and the body. So what the liver does, it can't process it, so it kicks it back out again, but then it comes right back. It's called the enterohepatic loop. So what milk thistle does is it quarantines these compounds. Just like if you have a virus checker in your computer and it detects a virus, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, you want me to quarantine that?" And I always say, "Yeah." But that's what milk thistle does. It puts that aside so that it's not going to damage your liver cells, and it's not going to, the way I always look at it, it's like the old westerns where the Indians are like attacking the wagon train and they repel them, and it's like they come back again, and then they come back again. Well, if you just took the Indians and invited them in, for supper, which, quarantines them, then they're not going to come back and attack again and again. The milk thistle also stimulates protein synthesis in the liver, so that if there is some damaged liver cells, it helps to rebuild them. So it's really an amazing herb for the liver.
I think the liver is especially important too. I mean, for hormones, it just has so many different things. So if your period's off, or your just any kind of hormonal imbalance that you might have with skin or anything, you have to have a healthy liver. One of the ways to have, and when you do have a healthy liver, then your energy is really smooth. You flow a lot better in your life, and you're happy.
And it makes your skin better, which makes you more confident.
Right.
Self-confident.
Yeah, but I mean, it also makes you happy. I mean, if you're, you've seen people as they get older, they get grumpy, but if they were eating greens, if they were having lemon in their water, if they were eating more raw foods and taking some little liver herbs that are very powerful actually, as well as just very healing. Another one would be dandelion root. And whenever I take dandelion root, I know that joy is coming. Joy, dandelion for me equals joy. Dandelion root. It kind of cleans out your liver and just helps you feel a lot better. It also balances your cravings. So if you're craving sugar a lot, or you're craving, I'm not sure about alcohol, but I expect it's the same idea, or just you're craving a whole lot of meat, or salty, cheesy food. If you drink a cup of dandelion, it kind of balances your taste buds out, and you want healthy food. So I think it's a real good ally that way too. Besides the fact that it just completely heals your liver and helps your bile and helps you move toxins out through your elimination.
So yeah, dandelion is actually available as dandelion leaf, which is more of a diuretic,
Yeah.
and dandelion root. So the genus of dandelion is Taraxacum, which comes from the Latin terrax acos, which means a remedy for a disorder. In other words, good for what ails you. It's one of the most powerful, wide-acting revered herbs in the world.
Right.
And
it's a weed.
yeah. And Jane was talking about joy, and of course the color of the flower of dandelion is yellow. And in color therapy, yellow is for joy. So a tea of dandelion, it's a really powerful blood purifier. In other words, it stimulates the liver's function, and especially if the liver function is diminished because of inflammation, and of course that's itis, and if that's inflammation of the hepatic organ, the liver, that's hepatitis. And that doesn't necessarily have to be infectious. You can get hepatitis from just an injury, inflammation of the liver. And of course when it swells up like that, it's such a vital organ that it's not able to do its function. And that's why you get sick. That's why you feel really horrible. But dandelion root is the most powerful herb for hepatitis. I had a student whose son was really super sick with infectious hepatitis. She was ready to take him to the hospital, but he said, "Call John." And so she called me, and I recommended the dandelion root, and she gave him the strong tea of that for a couple of days and canceled his appointment. We live near the health food store in Ocean Beach, the co-op Jane mentioned, People's Food Co-op. And at one time, pretty much all the people in the store were probably sharing joints, and they all had hepatitis. And so they called me up, the local herb doctor, and I recommended the dandelion root to them, and that worked great as well. That student whose son had really bad hepatitis ended up writing a book about her experience about dandelion, and a booklet, I should say.
But a book nonetheless.
A book nonetheless, yeah, because she was very amazed at how quickly that turned that around. What the Chinese say about herbs like dandelion, also burdock and yellow dock, is they clear blood heat through the liver.
Right.
They stimulate the function of the liver so that the liver can clear toxins from the body. And what herbalists say is if the blood is clean, no disease can reside in the body. And dandelion root is one of the strongest herbs to do that. You have to be careful with dandelion root, though. If you have weak kidneys, it is such a powerful diuretic, it could actually damage you. I had a student that came up after class one night and showed me this recipe that she'd made after I was talking about it, and asked me if that was okay and how much she should take. And I said, yeah, it's fine. She came to class the next week and said, I almost died last week. I said, what? How come? She said, I drank that tea you told me about. Well, I learned a good lesson from that. She didn't tell me, nor did I ask, that she was under the care of an acupuncturist, actually a friend of ours. And she had called this lady up and said, I'm not feeling good. And she said, what have you been doing? And she told her, and she said, stop drinking that and come in right now. She actually gave her an acupuncture treatment to jumpstart her kidneys. They were shutting down because they were being overstimulated. Otherwise, she could have ended up on dialysis. So you really want to be careful with a powerful herb like dandelion that you know what you're doing. You know, if there's weakness in an organ like the kidneys, the last thing you want to do is stimulate them. You want to nourish them. And then as you get some energy to work with, you can begin to encourage them with a more stimulating herb.
You know, 1 teaspoon of dandelion root would be fine for just about anybody. You know, 1 time a day or a couple times a week or whatever. I mean, you really don't have to worry too much about dandelion unless you're taking like an ounce of it, you know, 3 times a day or something like that. I mean, it's really a pretty user-friendly. It's one of our basic, you know, herbs that we use in the apothecary for almost everyone. Just that lady was taking way too much for her
condition.
system. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't be too afraid of dandelion.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And its cousin chicory can be used in the same way.
Okay.
Chicorum, the gypsies.
They're bitter.
We're real big on chicory.
Well, thank you guys so much, Mom and Dad, for coming on for both of these episodes. Now you can tell the audience where they can find you, any kind of exciting new projects you're doing, any products and services that you guys have, website and all that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Matt. We really have enjoyed, and thank you, audience. We've really enjoyed being able to share a little of what we know to be very useful. It's been our life work, and we really, really, really want people to get stronger, get healthier, and we know that your mind gets better when the health of your body gets better. So you'll have more positive thoughts, more happier feelings as you take care of your body.
So we have a website for our school, selfhealschool.com, and you can find classes that we offer on there. We're actually located here in San Diego, California. We're doing a lot of our classes during this Delta variant now online, and so wherever you live, you can plug in and get these classes. And the great thing about Zoom classes, online classes, is that we record them all. So if you miss a class or you want to review a class, after every class that we record, the next day we send out the recording to people.
We wish you love and we wish you health. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah, we teach classes not only in herbs but also in nutrition, and we have a teacher that comes in that teaches aromatherapy. In November, we have a friend of ours that is going to teach a class in crystal healing, and we offer a lot of other things too. So just check us out, and as Jane said, be healthy, be well, and take care.